Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Elise. Today I've got some cards to make with you, just some simple Christmas cards using stencils. These are going to be really easy for you to make and look clean and simple on a card. So here is a look at the first project we are going to make. It's this really fun, bold and graphic red and green Christmas card. So I've got my mini media mat out, and the stencil that we're going to be using is the Infinite Petals stencil from Waffle Flower Crafts. And I've got a piece of bristle smooth cardstock here. So I've gone ahead and taped on my stencil. Now, if I were to do this all over again, I would use the regular size media mat and not the mini. So do know that. Use the regular size, not the mini. So for my colors, I'm going to use Evergreen Bough, Pine Needles, Festive Berries, and Candied Apple. I'm just going to go ahead in with my very first color, lay down a really good coat. And then in between colors, you are going to give this stencil a really good clean so you don't get any transfer. And then you are just going to line up the stencil again so that the petals connect and go in with your second color. So as you can see, I'm kind of fighting for space here, which is why I wish I would have used the regular size media mat. Just going ahead in with the second red, that Candied Apple, which is so fun and festive. And then when I reveal the stencil, you can see it's just a really fun look. And you could stop at 2. That's kind of like what's really fun about this stencil because it's a builder. You could just do a few colors or you can do all 4. And there are different patterns that you can achieve depending on how you do your colors. So just going in with that last color. This is so much fun, and you can definitely use this stencil. It's obviously not Christmas. I'm just making it Christmassy with my colors. So you can use this for a variety of different projects. You can see how that looks now that I'm all done. I'm just going to trim this down and get it to the right size. I'm going to leave a border around my card. So in the end, I trim this down to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. Now I have got a piece of white Nina Classic Crest Solar White, 110-pound cardstock, and I'm going to make a little banner for the sentiment. I'm using these everyday sentiments, and I've got that Merry Christmas. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that using my MISTI positioner, just in case I need to stamp it down multiple times and so that I can get it perfectly straight. I will end up cutting down this strip as well. It ends up being a little bit too large. I'm going to go in with that Pine Needles Distress Oxide ink. One of my favorite things about Distress Oxide inks is that you can use them for techniques, but you can also use them for stamping. I would recommend using a MISTI if you're going to stamp with them though, because I often find that I don't get a good impression the first time and I need to stamp them again. So I went in 3 times with this to get a nice dark impression. Then I've got some green cardstock here. This is Noble Fur by Lawn Fun. Just taking my paper trimmer again, like I said, I end up cutting this down so that my strip that's going to go across is 1.5 inches. And just going to throw away that scrap. And now I need to create a strip for to border this. And so I am going to cut this panel. It was a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 pre-cut panel. So I'm just going to cut it down to 5 1/4 by 2 so that there's 1/4 inch on either side of my white border. So you can see that here. I just decided it was a little bit too big, so I'm going to go for 1 3/4 so that there is an 1/8 of an inch instead of 1/4 of an inch, but you could do either depending on the look that you are going for. Once I have got that together, I can move on to the assembly. So I'm just going to take some tape runner and adhere that white piece onto the green piece. Get that down and centered. And then I can go ahead and get it onto my stencil piece. And I am going to use some foam tape for this to get some dimension. And just stick that across. It's really nice because of this stencil, you can see how to get it on straight because your stencil is straight. So just positioning that, and just really, really like the way that this turns out. From here, all I need to do is adhere it onto an A2 size card base. I make my card bases out of Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110 pound. So I'm just adhering that down. And that is the first project. For the second project, we are going to do these kind of non-traditional Christmas colors. I love pinks and teals at Christmas. Am I the only one? Anyways, I've got this Spotlight Square stencil and this Merry Bow stencil. And so I thought I'd show you how to do it kind of 2 ways. The waffle flower stencils are really great because they include some grid lines to be able to make sure that you've got it positioned exactly where you want it. And I'm just showing you how that Merry Bow fits in. But here's those grid lines so you can see if you did it, you know, exactly how you want to position it and have it be exactly how you want it. On this one, I'm kind of doing basically centered. I've got some spun sugar. I'm just going to fill in that square so that in the end I'll have a spotlight square on a white cardstock. Once I have that done, I've got that Merry Bow stencil, and I am just going to do some additional ink blending. So I am going to tape this down to my stencil just to make sure everything stays straight. So I have got worn lipstick, just a little bit darker than that spun sugar, and I'm going to ink blend over that bow, and I am pressing really good and hard. I really want a good impression. And then using peacock feathers, I'm going to do that Merry Christmas and just do that ink blending. This ends up revealing the most like beautiful but super, super simple card. I think that this tag would also be really, really cute, or this stencil would be really cute used on a tag, I should say. So for the second card, I actually want the spotlight in the center to be white. So I'm taking the negative piece from that stencil, taping it down into the center, and then I can peel up my larger stencil and I will have a perfect square right in the middle of my card. So I'm going to go once again in with that spun sugar and do some ink blending. Now I did not hold, there's just purple tape holding down this square. So I do hold it down with my fingers as well. I just want to make sure it does not budge and I don't have to reset this all over again. So I'm just going in with a generous coat, loading up my foam blending tool. By the way, these foam blending tools are my favorite for Distress Oxide ink blending. If I was doing ink blending with dye ink, I would use the brushes that have become really popular. But for Distress Oxide inks, I still prefer and love the traditional foam. So once I have that done, I'm going to peel up that square, and then I'm going to bring in that Merry Bow stencil. And what I want to do is just put a bow in the middle of the square because I'm going to use it as a replacement for an alphabet letter. So I'm going to stamp out joy, but and the bow will replace the O. So I'm just going to go ahead, get that lined up, and then using that same worn lipstick, I'm just going to go ahead and ink blend that bow. And I do tape off the Mary just so that I mask it off and just in case I get ink there. Going back to my MISTI tool, and I've got the J and the Y. And these are from the Cutaway Alpha. And I'm stamping these again using that peacock feathers. I just think that this pink and teal combo is so much fun. Does anybody else like non-traditional colors at Christmas? This is probably my favorite like non-traditional color option. So again, because I'm using oxide inks, I am going to stamp this multiple times just to be sure that I get a really good impression. Taking one of the A2 layers rectangles and cutting this down. I didn't want the whole piece to just be pink. I wanted to have a good border. So using some purple tape to hold that down, and I'll run that through my die cutting machine. I've also cut down that Merry Christmas so that I can pop it up on a pink panel. So that first one that I did, and I am using foam tape to pop that up. And I'm just going to take some liquid glue and adhere that down to my card base. Once I have all of that glue applied, I will just pop this up, make sure it is all level and even. And then I will do the second card as well. So again, I'm using foam tape to pop up that Joy panel onto white. I think I could have also backed this with teal and it would be fun, but I do like the white border for clean margins. And once that is down, then those are my two kind of fun non-traditional stencil cards. Here's a look at all three of the projects. I hope that you liked watching this video. This one was really, really fun for me to make. I love using stencils. If you liked the video, be sure and go ahead and subscribe so you can see more from me. On the screen are more videos to watch if you want to keep the crafty inspiration going. And I will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much.